Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll be breaking down some words, idioms, and expressions from the Power English, so let's get started. The first phrase we're exploring is, have an impact on something, someone. When we say something has an impact on someone or something, we mean that it influences or affects them in a noticeable way. It signifies that a change, effect, or consequence is brought about by a particular action or event. For example, the new government policies had a significant impact on the economy, leading to increased growth and job opportunities. Or, her words of encouragement had a profound impact on his self-confidence, inspiring him to pursue his dreams. Moving on, we have something, in common, with, tilde. This phrase is used to highlight shared qualities, characteristics, interests, or experiences between two or more people, things, or groups. It signifies a similarity or commonality between the subject and something or someone else. For example, John and Mary have a lot in common. They both enjoy hiking and have a passion for photography. Or, I have a lot in common with my best friend. We both love sports, enjoy hiking, and have a passion for travel. Now, let's talk about lend itself, themselves to, something. When something lends itself to something, it means that it is suitable or well suited for a particular purpose, task, or activity. It suggests that the characteristics of the subject make it adaptable to the specified use. For instance, the flexibility of the new software system lends itself to customization for various business needs. Or, her artistic skills and creativity lend themselves to graphic design, so she pursued a career in that field. Next up is, it's easy to see why tilde. This phrase is used to explain or provide a reason for something that is evident or apparent. It's often used to express understanding or justification for a particular situation, outcome, or observation. For example, it's easy to see why the movie has become so popular. It's a heartwarming story with great acting. Or, it's easy to see why he's considered a culinary genius. His dishes are a delightful fusion of flavors. Lastly, we have illustrate. To illustrate is to give examples to make something easier to understand. It involves using visual or verbal representations to clarify a point or make something more vivid and comprehensible. For instance, let me illustrate this concept with a real-world example to make it easier to understand. Or, the teacher used diagrams and charts to illustrate the complex scientific process. That's it for today's lesson. I hope you found it both informative and enjoyable.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen Joe.
And I'm Cameron Word.
Cameron, how's it going?
It's going well.
You've got like fall colors today.
I do.
It's like, what is that color?
Dead tree. It's like a dark green, like an olive green.
It's olive.
And then a brownish yellow.
Yeah,
I look like I just rolled in the mud.
You look. Okay, so it's kind of like an olive, but a little bit more brown.
Yeah.
It goes well with your hair. And then I've got like spring.
You're very spring colored today.
I'm very spring. It's like I've got these, we call this Liberty print. Liberty, yes.
What is a Liberty print?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but it's like these sort of like little floral prints. This is what they call it. They have a name for it. It's called Liberty print.
I see, but it's like tiny flowers.
Tiny flowers.
Not the big flower print.
Yes, that's right. And I love these sort of things.
Oh, yeah.
Not the big flowers, just this little tiny flowers.
The tiny ones.
Because I like to consider myself to be a flower.
Are you a spring? Do you know your season, your color?
Oh, I don't know. I did that when I was like 20. I forgot.
I don't know.
What are you?
I think I'm like a winter.
You're a winter?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to have to find out. Okay.
Anyway,
all right.
We have nothing to do about clothes today in our article.
Yes, we have to talk about children who do better in math when music is used.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting? It's like you listen to music and you do better in math.
Yeah. Well, they say that math and music are really closely connected. So people, I think it probably goes both ways. People who are good at music are better at math, and the opposite. People who are good at math maybe are better at music too.
You were good at math.
Yeah.
You were very good at math. But I was good at math too. So it's interesting that we're both good at math.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Very confident in our math skills. So we're so confident, you know?
We were awesome. Okay. Have an impact on someone or something.
Yes.
Impact is IMPACT. To have an impact.
This means you affected them or you influenced them. In a good way or a bad way.
All right. Have something in common.
There are things that you share. It could be your personality, your interests, your opinions.
And finally, lend. L-E-N-D. We're not talking about money. Okay, lend money. It's lend itself to.
It means it's a good match for, it's suitable, or it kind of just goes together.
It goes well together. Great. Let's go ahead and listen to our article. A new study on whether the use of music can have an impact on a student's success in mathematics showed amazing results. The study analyzed the results of 55 studies involving 78,000 students. When music was used to illustrate a math lesson, the positive effect was greatest. Since math and music have a lot in common, it's easy to see why this would be so. For instance, teachers had students clap along with songs with different rhythms to explain fractions. Math lends itself to being taught through music because many core concepts of math, like fractions and ratios, are necessary in music. All right, let's begin. A new study on whether the use of music can have an impact on a student's success in mathematics showed amazing results. Okay, so they did a study.
Yes.
And they wanted to see if music had an impact on a student's ability with math. And they had amazing results. They had really good results. So it seems like there's a connection. So if something A has an impact on B, what does this mean?
To have an impact means it influences or makes a difference. It affects. And it's not necessarily good or bad. It just means that this changes it. Yeah, doing math with or without music, we can see a difference. It has an impact.
It has an impact. It's a good impact. The study analyzed the results of 55 studies involving 78,000 students. Well, that's a large number. I feel like, okay, well, that's quite if it were like 100 students.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows, right? But 78,000?
That's a lot.
Okay. When music was used to illustrate a math lesson, the positive effect was the greatest. When music was used to illustrate a math lesson. So they actually used music.
Yes.
To illustrate a math lesson. What does illustrate mean?
So illustrate originally means something like to draw.
Yeah.
But we can use it to mean describe or show. Often in a visual way, but here it's in a sonic way, in an audible through sound,
noise, through sound. Yes.
So here, when you talk about illustrating a lesson, you're kind of using something else that is easier to understand, so that you can understand a new thing. So, for example, math. Like, I remember we always played with, like, the little colored blocks and, like, little weights and grams and, like, we'd take a pizza and we'd cut it up. That's a way of illustrating a math lesson, because especially if you're a kid.
Right. When you're a kid,
a kid, you understand shapes and colors and sounds better than you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this is not about doing the math problem while listening to music. It's about music showing a math lesson. Interesting. So, let's continue.
Yes. Since math and music have a lot in common, it's easy to see why this would be so.
Okay, this goes back to what you said about how music and math are kind of quite connected.
Yeah.
They have a lot in common.
Yes. To have a lot in common means to have many things that you share. So you could also say have nothing in common, have very little in common, and that would have the opposite meaning.
Right.
But to have in common means you share something. It could be a personality, a characteristic, experience, background, all of these things. We often use it for people, but in this case, you can see it's used for math and music and comparing them.
So here's my question.
Yes.
This is my big question, mystery. We have nothing in common.
Me and you?
Yeah. But we get along so well. How did this happen?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
If you look
We really
on paper,
don't.
I don't think we have a lot in common.
We don't.
But I think maybe our personalities are similar.
Yeah, maybe.
Similar personality.
Sure.
We both lived in Korea for a long time.
Right.
Other than that,
I don't know. But I do think that we have very similar humor.
Yeah.
We have that in common.
That's an important one.
That is. Okay. So then it says here, it's easy to see why this would be so.
Yes.
Okay. So it's easy to see why.
Yeah.
This is a power pattern. What is this saying?
Yeah, it's saying that the reason is easy to understand. It's often used in a way of saying like, oh, it's obvious, or like, of course that's the reason. That's what we're saying.
Right.
But math and music having a lot in common, if you already know that, then of course you would think that music would affect math in a good way.
Right. So it's easy to see why. Like, of course, it's obvious.
Yeah. Why'd you spend time and money researching this? It's easy to see why.
So, for instance, teachers had students clap along with songs with different rhythms to explain fractions. Okay?
Yeah.
Math lends itself to being taught through music because many core concepts of math, like fractions and ratios, are necessary in music.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going on here? So 분수 is fraction and 비율 is ratio. So these are some math concepts.
Yeah.
So they're saying that actually music, because it's perfect. It's a perfect match with music and math.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in English, the notes in music, you have a whole note.
Yeah.
A half note.
Right.
Quarter note.
Yes.
Eighth note. 16th note. 32nd note.
Right.
64th note.
Okay.
Like, they just divide smaller and smaller. So it's easy for children who are good at math to see, so the distance gets halved. Oh, the value gets halved.
Yes.
So, but the expression they used was math lends itself to be taught through music. So when it says lends itself to, it means math can easily be taught through music.
Okay.
It goes well with, or it matches in a good way with.
It's very suitable.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and listen to that article one more time.
A new study on whether the use of music can have an impact on a student's success in mathematics showed amazing results. The study analyzed the results of 55 studies involving 78,000 students. When music was used to illustrate a math lesson, the positive effect was greatest. Since math and music have a lot in common, it's easy to see why this would be so. For instance, teachers had students clap along with songs with different rhythms to explain fractions. Math lends itself to being taught through music because many core concepts of math, like fractions and ratios, are necessary in music.
All right, let's have a quick review through Power Note. Have an impact on someone or something means to affect or influence someone or something. What made you the person you are today? So why are you the way you are?
I was raised by my grandmother, which had a big impact on me. Yeah.
So she had a very big influence in the way you were raised.
You were raised?
Yeah.
And to be honest, I feel like kids, because in America this is maybe sadly common.
Yeah.
Many children are raised by their grandparents.
Oh, but in Korea too, you just don't hear about it. But a lot of kids, yeah.
Yeah, either the parents are gone or whatever reason, the parents aren't there. And you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
The person with the personality of a child. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes they honestly are more mature.
Yeah.
To be honest.
It's true though.
But I think that does impact how you grow up.
That's true. Absolutely. So it could be in a good way, in a bad way, or maybe just a neutral way.
Yeah.
But it has an effect on you.
Yes.
Okay. Jensen's decision had an impact on the next 3 generations of his family.
Yeah, you know, I often think about this. Like, we as individuals, we work hard, we try to make money, but sometimes choices that, like, our great-great-grandfather or great-great-grandmother made...
Oh, for sure.
Just, like, has an impact on our lives.
Well, I mean, you're speaking to me and my dad and his father who made a decision. And it impacted the entire family for 2-3 generations.
And like
down.
You may have, the generations maybe never met each other.
No.
But they just had an impact.
Yeah. I mean, I've never met my grandfather from my dad's side.
Right.
Yeah. But, you know, his decision to participate in certain things during Korean history made a huge impact on the whole family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they do say that, like, certain big, like, world events or, like, you know, trauma, either, like, war or something bad happening, that changes maybe the father's or mother's way of thinking.
Generational trauma.
And then that way of thinking gets passed
on and on.
And it has an impact on later generations.
That's absolutely correct. So I feel like even though we didn't see the war, and even though, but our parents may have, you know, or our grandparents may have, so that also affects us too.
Yeah. So those were, that was maybe a not good example of impact, but there could also be a positive impact.
Okay.
Maybe you learn good money skills.
Right.
And that you pass that on to your family, your son or daughter. They teach their son or daughter.
Financial education.
Yeah, and that type of education can have an impact for many generations as well.
Okay, very good. All right, how something in common means to share, you know, similar interests, characteristics, and, you know, I just mentioned that Cameron and I, we have like one thing we have in common for sure is our sense of humor. Yeah, we laugh at similar things.
That's very true.
You and I are nothing alike.
I disagree. We have more in common than you know.
Yeah.
We have...
That's our conversation.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah. We don't really have anything in common, yet we are best friends. Well, I think it's that plus and minus. You know, you don't have to be similar to become the best of friends.
It's true. To be honest, I don't do well with people that I have a lot in common with.
I agree.
Like if there was a second Cameron, I don't think we'd be friends. I think we would be enemies. You know?
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's good to have some things in common. But, like, if everything is in common, that can be very difficult.
That's right. That's because the dynamics, it's boring. You got to have differences to make a good dynamic.
Right.
And
Yeah. But I think if you're going to get married, you have to have some things in common.
Oh, for sure.
Like how many children you want.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, how you use money.
Or what do you see your future at doing? You know, how do you feel about traveling? All of those things.
Right. But maybe you don't need to have hobbies in common.
Yes.
Like one person can like tennis and another person can like reading books.
Yes, for sure. Okay. All right. So now we're giving marriage advice.
We are.
Okay.
We're very confident.
We're very. We know what we're talking about. Okay. All right. Lend itself to something. So this means to be suitable for or good for something. It's well matched.
Yes.
What do you think of this spice?
It lends itself to a variety of dishes, from Moroccan to Persian.
So it's a certain kind of spice.
Yeah, it's probably one of those Middle Eastern spicy things. Yeah.
This fabric lends itself to bathing suits and sportswear.
It's probably some kind of spandex.
Yeah, it's stretchy. Yeah. So it's suitable for. It's a good match for bathing suits and sportswear. Yeah. Maybe not like an evening gown.
Right, probably not. It's really, I mean, like fashion designers, of course you have to think of the actual shape of the clothes, but it's an extra thing to think about, like this type of fabric.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you use linen or cotton?
I think that's so important in clothing, like what kind of fabrics they use.
Polyester.
Yeah. And like, I mean, certain fabric falls differently. Yeah. Right? So fashion designers think about that as well. All right. It's easy to see why just means, it's obvious.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
It's easy to see why so many women are in love with him.
Yeah, he's got a great personality. He's handsome.
He makes a lot of money. Yeah.
It's easy to see how you could mistake me for my twin sister.
Yeah, because we're identical twins.
We look the same. Yeah,
that's right. Okay. Our power vocab today is illustrate.
Yeah.
And it means that teachers or explain something. It kind of shows you.
Yeah.
All right. There's a definition on page 114. Do check it out. And let's thank our sponsor.
한국토익위원회에서 취업과 승진